Hello, welcome to the Damon Friedman Show. But this isn't just a regular podcast. This is a movement, and movements are always caused by leaders who are just passionate about something that's just burning inside their heart and in their soul. And what they do is they establish an organization and they do everything that they can to accomplish that mission. Well, we want to learn from these leaders. And today, I have somebody so extraordinary. His story is going to blow you away. And he's not just a leader of leaders, but he is a very close friend of mine. Ladies and gentlemen, my great audience, please welcome Mr. John Arroyo. Thank you. Welcome.
Dr. Damon Friedman, thank you for allowing me to the show. And I think we're going to have a great conversation today about leadership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that when I was thinking about all the people that I wanted to invite to be on this show, I was like, John Arroyo, when can I get John Arroyo in my studio? He's out of Texas. Okay. And I'm like, how am I going to get John Arroyo? Well, John Arroyo actually comes out to our graduating classes. And he's kind of like my keynote speaker at the end of each clinic when all these warriors come through our program, learning more about what it means to be resilient. And we close it all up with Mr. John Arroyo. So, hey, John, man, you're just blowing the doors off of all of our teammates and stuff. And you're here today, and it's another clinic, and you're going to be just making sure that everybody, when they depart, they understand what the meaning of hope is. And I really appreciate that.
I appreciate it. And it's always a challenge to be there as a keynote with the ultimate keynote speaker, right? And so, but you know what? That's how we grow as leaders.
That's right.
And that's what we're going to talk about. So for me to be in your presence, doing a keynote in front of you, knowing that mentally you're taking notes, is always a challenge, emotionally, but it's a way for me to grow. And you've been coaching me from day one. And I knew that one day I'd be on your podcast, but I figured it'd be like 3 years from now.
No, man, you're making me blush, dude. I'm just grateful that we can be working together because we're both, in line. We both have the same mission. We want to bring hope and purpose in a lost and broken world. So, speaking of which, John Arroyo is a former Green Beret, and his story is incredible. What we want to do is we're going to break this up for all of our audience out there that's not familiar with the show. We're going to be talking a little bit about John's background and what he's doing today, and then we're going to dive in deep on what does it mean to be a leader, a servant leader in particular. So John, tell us where did your story begin?
Damon, I think it started a lot like your story, and I don't know how much you've already shared with your audience, but we're both California boys.
Yeah,
I grew up in California, and what I just realized, and it's something that just came to me recently, that a lot of the decisions I made was stemmed from having not having a father in my home. Mm-hmm. So I would say a fatherless home. Mm-hmm. Right now, I think we're seeing a fatherless generation. And that's where it started, Damon. I started making a lot of decisions in my life because I didn't have my dad in my home. Mm. That affected a lot of decisions I made as a young boy because I was never affirmed. I didn't hear those endearing words. John, you're my son in who I'm well. Please, I love you. I'm proud of you, son. Let's go kick the ball. Let's go work on the car. And so what I did as a young boy is I used my friends, my knuckleheaded friends growing up in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. I used my friends as my source of affirmation. And if you're going to use your friends, your teenage friends as your source of affirmation and approval, I didn't grow up in the church group. I grew up in the streets of California, and my friends weren't doing the things that were cool. Right. We grew up in the gangster rap era, and we thought that Ice Cube and Eazy-E were the coolest. And so a lot of the things that my friends thought were cool, I needed them to affirm me. And it got me into people pleasing and trying to be the class clown. I wasn't into my education. What I was trying to do, Damon, early on is I was just trying to receive their likes. Right. I was trying to receive their affirmation. Mm-hmm. And so that's where my story started early on. And because I was looking for approval from my friends, right, and I was trying to be the class clown and get their likes, I didn't apply myself in education. Yeah. And then I found myself in drugs, and I was a teenage father. And I know we're both military men and we can talk about it, but Damon, I have to be honest with your listeners. I didn't join the military because I was patriotic. I joined the military because I was addicted to meth.
So, whoa. I mean, John, you got to slow down, brother. I mean, I told you we have to go through your story, fast and expeditious, but not that fast, man. You just unloaded. First, you said, you became a teenage father. You told me that there was a struggle of trying to get some affirmation from your own father. And then you joined the military, and why you joined the military. Hold on, pause, tactical pause, my friend, dude. Okay. I'd like to just share, when you said that, it kind of reminded me immediately. Our upbringings are very similar. With my biological father, there was a time, actually, all of a sudden this memory came up. And I remember telling my biological father, it was just a few times that we actually met up. I said, I just want a dad. And he goes, well, what do you want to do? And he goes, and at the time I was trying to learn how to play baseball. By the way, I was not very good at baseball. Okay. I was good at stealing bases because I was really good at stealing. Okay. But we'll talk about that a different time. But, so we grabbed a mitt, a ball, and then we went out to a field with my brother, and we threw the ball for maybe like just a handful of minutes. That's all it was. It was a handful of minutes. And then he just came to me. He's like, I just can't do this. And what he was saying is that it's not that, he can't play baseball, because he really couldn't, but that wasn't the point. It was because he just couldn't be the father that I'm asking him to be, that I needed him to be. It's weird. I haven't remembered that for like, I don't know. I don't, that just came up. So when you were talking about that, I understand how we were looking for that validation for our biological father. And then you mentioned that all of a sudden you were hanging out with these bad kids, looking for validation from them. And then all of a sudden you became a father as a teenager. All right, let's keep moving now. All right. And then you're like, okay, then I decided to join the military. What happened when you became a teenage father to all of a sudden you're wanting to join the military? Go ahead.
Well, I got it. I found myself in my senior year in high school addicted to drugs. And my sister, Damon, I think we know this, and you know this because of the organization that you run. Your job is to help people that are battling through addictions find the resilience in their life and get back on their feet. That's what we're called to do today. And so what happened is my sister saw right through the addiction, and she sat me down and said, look, John, what's happening is you're now giving your son what you received.
Wow.
Well, what did I receive? Damon, I received nothing, just like what you said. And the difference between my dad and your dad is that my dad drunk himself to death at 34 years old.
Wow.
So there was never an opportunity for me to even have a conversation with him.
Wow.
About, Dad, why? Why can't you be the father? See, I grew up, and I'm not trying to switch gears, but I grew up in this Hispanic culture where it's machismo. The men are going to teach the men how to be men.
Yeah.
Well, today, the impartation that you're giving your kids and what you're pouring into your kids is a lot different than what my dad received. And so the truth is that they said, this is how we're going to teach this young man how to be a man. And they put a drink in his hand.
Wow. Yeah, that's right.
They didn't put a college book in his hand.
That's right.
They didn't say, go join the military or the SATs. And that ended up in my life when my dad at 34 years old dies of cirrhosis of the liver. So what happens is my sister turns and looks at me and says, is that what you want for your son?
Right.
And that was a tough conversation. And I knew I didn't, but I also didn't know how to be a dad. One, because I was a kid, but two, I'd never seen it played out in my own home because I was 5 years old when my dad died. So one, I didn't know what a dad should do. And then I didn't know how to be a dad. And I'll let you jump in there.
No. I mean, so when you were talking about your dad, just wanting to show what a man looks like, put a beer in his hand. That happened with me as well. I remember it was, again, another one of those few times that I spent time with my biological father. It was my birthday. And I remember specifically this day. I remember specifically because we got up, we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, or he lived in a 2-bedroom apartment. He had his master bedroom, and then his second bedroom was his studio. He loved photography. He was phenomenal in photography. And when my brother and I would come over, we would sleep, in the kitchen. They throw a mattress down on the ground. If that wasn't around, then sometimes on the couch. But anyway, this time I was by myself, and it was my birthday. And I remember getting up in the morning, and I told my dad, "Hey, listen, I'd like to go to the movies." He's like, okay, no problem. And back in the day, you could easily, when people are going through the back, you can enter right through the back, right? So that I was able to get into the movies early in the morning, and I watched literally like 3 or 4 movies straight. You know how it is, right at the very end. And basically, I came home, and he just said, make sure that you're back before dark. So I watched a bunch of movies. I came back, and then I came to the door. I opened it up, and it was dark in the apartment. There was always a light wherever he was, and that was it. And I remember walking up, and I'm looking around, and I was always scared of my biological father. He was very, very physical, and he was physically abusive, and he liked to drink a lot, and he liked to smoke pot, and whatever else depending on the mood. And I remember him. I'm looking around, and he goes, Francis. And so a lot of my viewers don't know my first name is Francis. Try being raised in downtown LA with the name like Francis. Okay. It was tough. It's like a boy named Sue with Johnny Cash. You get tough pretty quick. Anyway, so all of a sudden I look over, and there he is over at the counter. He had a bottle of Kahlua milk, and his little glass, he had another one. He said, come here. I remember walking slowly, unsure of what was going on. And he had me sit down. So I sat down. He grabs Kahlua, pours it into a cup, grabs some milk, pours it into another cup. Then he shakes it, and then he hands me the cup. He moves it on the counter. He said, drink up, son. Today you're a man. And that, my friend, was my birthday present from my biological father. So I understand that, man. So anyway, bottom line is it's important to share stories, not to trigger audience or people who probably didn't have a great upbringing, but for them to understand that we appreciate what it means to be a good father, especially when we never had a good father. It's the toughest job I've ever had in my life, brother. I'd rather be back in the mountains of Afghanistan fighting the enemy than have to do this, because it's super hard. There are just circumstances beyond your control with your son. But in Afghanistan, I felt like I had way more control of the outcome. You know what I mean? And so anyway, but I can really appreciate that. So here we are. You're having a tough upbringing. Your dad drinks himself to death. And now you're a teenage father, right? And now you're trying to figure out, okay, where do I go from here? You've got a family that's very concerned about your health and welfare. They know that you're doing drugs, you're addicted. Now you're trying to figure out the next chapter of your life. Go ahead.
And that's when my sister sits me down and says, look, you're going to give your son exactly what you received. What was that? That was nothing. So she said, you're going to come live with me, because she saw right through the addiction. Mm-hmm. And that's a thing, Damon, and we know it. When someone's addicted, even if it's pornography, we see right through it. Mm-hmm. The only person that's deceived is usually the people that's involved in the addiction. Right. So my sister saw right through it. My family was on board. See, the thing is, I grew up in a good home. I had a good mom, a good grandmother, good family. It was just the choices that I was making because my dad wasn't there. And so anyways, I listened to my sister. I talked with her, and I just decided, okay, I'm going to follow what you want me to do. I said, what should I do? She said, you're going to come live with me, and I'm going to help you get on track. Well, when you're addicted to methamphetamines, it's really hard for a family member to get you on track. You have to hit rock bottom, or something has to happen in your life for there to be a shift.
Right.
And my sister recognized that her help for me was limited. I mean, think about this, Damon. Here at Soft Missions, you bring in how many clinicians just for one?
Right.
I mean, just for one individual, yeah. You got sleep, mental health, physical therapy. My sister was one person trying to help me when you bring in 10 doctors for one person.
Right, right. Yeah.
So my sister recognized that I needed help beyond what she was willing to give me. And she started talking to me about the military. And I said, the military's not for me. And she said, she really, really encouraged me to go. And so that's what walked me into the door of the military and seeing a recruiter, was knowing that I was giving my son nothing, and I had to do something. I had to change my environment in order to change me from the inside out. And, just like you said something that was very critical. There may be some people that are triggered, but here's what they need to see. They need to see two men that have made it, that are now able to talk about it because we've walked through the process of healing. We're on this podcast, A Force for Good, to let them know that you can and you will be healed of those invisible wounds.
Yeah, I believe that wholeheartedly, man. And that's another reason why your message resonates with me, because I myself am trying to share this message of hope and purpose to a lost and broken world. I really am. So here you are. Your sister says, let's join the military. You're looking around. You're like, this is probably the best option that I have right now, considering I don't have too many options, right?
Yeah, and that's it, because I didn't put myself in education. I was too busy people pleasing, right? When you're people pleasing in a classroom, you're trying to be the class clown. That's what I was. I was the class clown.
Yeah.
You know, when the teacher's giving the lesson, he'd kick me out. And then after he was done giving the lesson, then he'd allow me back in. So when everyone's doing the work, I'm like, hey, how do you do that? So academically, I wasn't hitting on all cylinders. So I wasn't easily going to get out of high school and go right into college. I wasn't going to get that engineering job. And I didn't have a lineage from family to say, hey, you're going to join the family business.
Right.
If I was going to join the family business, it was going to probably be a drink in my hand.
Right.
So what I did is I went and sought that recruiter, and that was my way. And I'm going to say this, Damon, it's the first time in my life when I ended up in the military in 1998. I showed up on Fort Bragg, North Carolina, 82nd Airborne Division. I'll skip all the details of the recruiter, but when I showed up there is when finally I had men and women that saw what was in me from the beginning.
Right.
They saw the leader. They saw the warrior. We're both special operators, and we'll get to it. I'm a Green Beret. You're an Air Force special operator. You're a Marine special operator. What I found out is the Army can't mass produce special operators. The Air Force can't mass produce special operators. If that's the case, there would just be a whole bunch of them, but there's not. So what the military did is they saw the Green Beret in me and they pulled it out. And then they just sent me through the training, because nobody can give you the heart to keep going when you're wet, you're cold, you're hungry. You've been to Ranger School. You know what it's like.
That's right.
When you've been to dive school, who can give you the heart to keep pushing when most people don't? And it's not about size. It's not about how fast you can run. It's about the heart that's inside of you. When you're cold, wet, hungry, you're alone. What gives you, what propels you to keep putting that foot in front of the other? So what the military did is finally see what was in me, and they called it out. And it was the first time that I had a daddy's love, but like that tough love that they saw, and they began to give me those adjectives, those leadership adjectives, like, man, you're a leader, you're going to make it, you're awesome. And I was like, whoa, this is a whole different set of conversations that I was having before. Was I a knucklehead? Did they need to scuff me up here and there? They sure did. But in the military, early on in the 82nd Airborne Division, is where I found a daddy's love, but it was through leadership.
Right. So, man, so here you are. You're in the 82nd Airborne, right? Tell us a little bit more about your deployments and your progress, because at the end of the day, like, we got to get into the meat and potatoes of your story here, because people are wondering, like, you got a Green Beret on deck. You know, this is awesome. But what's so special about him? Let me tell you something. What's so special about him? I think he's invincible. That's what it is. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay, I'm going to tell you why he's invincible. You say, hey, there's nobody that's invincible. Well, you know, I believe that man has this a snapshot in time. And I believe that the creator of the universe, who I call God, I'm a person of faith, I believe that he's in absolute control. And he inserted John into time, into a place, right here, right now. And then it's determined when he's going to be extracted out. So, but the reality is that nothing can take you out until it's your time. And so here you are, you're in the 82nd Airborne. I know that you have some ambitions, right? You're not created just to be normal. You're not average. All right. People can look at us. I'm 5'0" 100 nothing. You're 5'0" 100 nothing. You know, people already predetermined that we're not going to be able to go too far. We're not smart enough. We're not fast enough. We're not strong enough. So we join the military. You join the military. You're in the 82nd Airborne. What's next, my friend?
Well, what happened is I'm in the 82nd Airborne Division, and that little orphan heart that needed approval starts seeing these Army Rangers and Green Berets. And my peers, same thing, right? If you're on Fort Liberty today, back then Fort Bragg, everybody sees those Delta operators, even though they're not supposed to be there. Long story short, I started telling everybody I wanted to be a Green Beret. I ended up becoming a Green Beret. I have to go to selection twice. So I joined the Army in 1998 when it was pre 9/11. There wasn't a war going on. But when I was in the 82nd Airborne Division from 98 to 2003 is when is when I started seeing these Green Berets and started telling people I wanted to do that. Well, then the war kicked off. I ended up becoming a Green Beret on my second attempt in selection, 3 combat tours, 2 Afghanistan, 1 to Iraq. And Damon, let me say something, because this is, I think, as we're talking about leadership today,
that's right.
People need to hear this.
That's right.
The first time I ever had an anxiety attack wasn't because I was going to face the enemy in Afghanistan. It was because I had to face my peers. I was this rookie Green Beret, former truck driver when I first joined the Army. Now here I am, one of the most elite commandos, and you better do it right. And when there's blood in the water, the sharks come biting. And so, you know what? There's going to be some leaders that are going to hear this, and they're wondering why they're anxious. Why is it? Is it because we have deadlines? Is it because is it our mission, or is it because I got to go in that boardroom,
right?
And I got to present in front of my peers,
right?
And I'm more scared of my peers presenting in front of my peers, my thoughts, my ideas. That's what was happening to me. Having to go in that morning meeting at 8 a.m. in Afghanistan was more scary than putting my gear on and going and facing the enemy.
Man, I totally understand what you mean. It's interesting that you say that you were a Motor T before. A lot of people don't know because they look at my resume and they look at all my combat deployments and my decorations. A lot of people don't realize that I was actually, when I first joined the Marine Corps, I was a logistician. It was back in 2000 when there was no war. And then all of a sudden, I wanted to go infantry. There were not a lot of slots to become, infantry officer. And I was devastated. And when I got logistics, it was like, okay. And I was top 1/3 of my class. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. I joined the Marine Corps so I could be a killer, right? I want to be in the infantry. They said, sorry, kid, there's only a few slots in infantry, but you could be the best logistician in the world. I said, you know what? This is my lot in life. I'm going to be the best logistics officer. And then I ended up going to logistics school. I graduated at the top of the class. I became an air delivery platoon commander. And then ultimately, 2003, 2001, 9/11 happens. Then I'm part of the invasion in 2003. In the war, everybody was an infantryman. Okay. It was the invasion. Everybody got some. I went all the way through Safwan, all the way up south of Baghdad and back down. And when we got back, there was this selection. Second Force Recon opened up for all MOSs. I was like, this is my ticket. This is my ticket, baby. Right? Because there's no way I could be an infantry officer. And so I went through selection. I got selected, and I went through the recon indoctrination at Second Force Reconnaissance. I want to thank you, Gunny Bordash and Gunny Coleman, for believing in me. That's right. Shout out to my favorite Marines, recon. All right. Now it went to MARSOC. But anyway, so here you are. You're former logistics, Motor T. You become a Green Beret, multiple deployments. And now where are we?
Well, I do several combat tours. I come back. I'm just this mean. I bring that tension home. I bring war home, and maybe in the boardroom. How many people right now, let's just relate this to the people that we're addressing. It's not just military, but how many people in the boardroom bring their work home or the tension to come? Right. That's just us. And that's what I did. I brought the war from Afghanistan home.
Right.
And then, Damon, I did what Daddy did. I brought a whole bunch of alcohol with it. Because when I was in the 82nd Airborne Division, we were told that we were the most physically fit alcoholics.
Yeah, I believe that, actually.
That's what we were told. And so I coming home on 3 deployments, I just brought this anger home, mixed it with alcohol. And during that time, I could cut my family down real good with my tongue. I wasn't mean. I mean, I wasn't physical, but I was mean. I was mean, angry, very I would say just like a lot of tension because I didn't know how to release it. Because we were always told as special operators, and maybe let's talk to these leaders. Where's their outlet? How do you release this tension when you come home and you're a leader and the world looks at you? You're a Green Beret. You're a lieutenant colonel when you retired. You're just supposed to be able to deal with it.
Right.
Right. So you go on deployment, you come home, you have all this anxiousness, and now where's your outlet? My outlet was my family.
Right.
I poured out all that anxiousness on my family. And during that time, my family was crumbling.
Yeah.
And I have to say that that was about 2006 to 2008. And we hit rock bottom, Damon. As a family, we hit rock bottom. Right. But the Army gave me another opportunity. And I applied to this Green to Gold officer program. So I went from enlisted to officer. And in 2011, I started this program to get my education. And I transitioned from a special operator into the medical service corps because I knew that one day I was going to get out. And so that's kind of where my life transitioned. I went from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, serving as a Green Beret special operator, deploying, then really starting to focus on my family and start thinking about the second half of my life, which is now today. At 10 years in the military, I began to start thinking about what happens after. How am I going to feed my family? No one's going to pay me to jump out of airplanes anymore. No one's going to pay me to chase bad guys up mountains. And so I don't know what shifted inside me, but at 10 years, I started thinking about what does life look like at the 20-year mark? And there's so many men and women in the military that they don't start having those thoughts till they're like 18 years in the military. For some reason, I started having those thoughts early in life, which is why I started talking to the warrant officers and officers about, okay, how am I going to feed my family later? Because I could have stayed a shooter. I could have stayed a Green Beret in the hallway and been on deployments and go. But just like you're now using the skills as a logistician in your own organization. So those skills are beneficial now as you're applying those logistician skills. Is anyone hiring you to drop bombs anymore?
No.
Would they take those logistician skills and say, you know what, Lean Six Sigma, we can really use that right now. And so that's what happened. I became a medical service corps officer. I graduated. I transitioned. My first assignment was Fort Hood, Texas. I got there about November 2013. Now as this new officer. And I have to say something, Damon, April 2nd of 2014. So now I'm on Fort Hood, which is now Fort Cavazos, but I was there about 5 months in my new assignment as a medical service corps officer. And I was shot by another soldier on base, someone that I would have given my life for, someone that I trusted. You know, there's many people that are going to hear this podcast, Damon, and there's a lot of people that have been wounded by people they've trusted. And some of them may be on their own staff. And so on April 2nd of 2014, there was a soldier that brought a weapon on base, and he wore the same uniform as me.
Holy smokes.
And he shot 19 of us. I'm actually a survivor of the second mass shooting on the military base, Fort Hood, when one soldier shot 19 of us, and I took a 45 caliber through my throat. But I'm here today because I persevered through that. I knew that my family mattered. And so when I was on the ground, my life was pouring up. I got up. And so I'm here because I got up. And that's what your listeners need to hear.
Okay. Time out. Whoa. All right. You just dropped a 2,000-pound bomb on the podcast here. Okay. All right. We're going to get into the leadership piece in a minute, but let me ask a question. All right. You're sitting there, you're an officer. All of a sudden a soldier shows up, mass shooting. He starts gunning down other soldiers. 19 of them, you said.
Yes, sir.
19 were killed that day.
4 were killed.
So 4 were killed. 19
16 of us wounded.
16 wounded. All right. So the reality is that you're sitting there. You got a 45 round that goes through your carotid artery, right?
Through my jugular.
The jugular. Your jugular. And now all of a sudden you're bleeding out on the ground. What are you thinking right there when you're bleeding out on the ground? Tell me, let's just tell the audience real quick. What was it like? What were the footsteps? What happened? Let's just take 60 seconds to really capture that moment. And while you're on the ground bleeding out, right? Because I know your story. You're sitting there, you have your hand, and you're trying to stop all the bleeding while it's just gushing out. And people are trying to figure out, even today, how in the world you even survived. Everyone says that I know, all my healthcare professionals, reading your book, listening to your story, looking at your documentation, you should be dead. 1,000%. 1,000%. The description of the amount of pints of blood on the ground, it's miraculous. How is it possible that John Arroyo even survived? So you're sitting there, you got shot. Tell the audience real quick, and listen. I know this is about a leadership podcast. This is how leaders win. You know the character of a leader, not when things are going awesome. No, you know the character of a leader when things are at its worst, when the storms are coming in and it's a hurricane, man. I'm talking about one that's just massive. Do leaders run away or do leaders run toward? So here you are, you get shot, you're bleeding out. Go ahead, let's capture that moment. And then we'll get in because everything is a lesson learned here. Everything. Go ahead.
So I'm shot, and initially I didn't realize it. sucks the wind out of me. I felt like I had a baseball bat hit my chest. That's what it felt like. And I believe a lot of people feel that way just in life. So I turn, I try to move away. I'm trying to move away from the gunman, and he drives off. He shot me from his car, and I walk back to my car because I'm in a parking lot in this scenario, and I'm trying to get back to my car. I think I'm just instinctively, I'm trying to get away from him. I fall flat on my face, and my life is pouring out, as you just explained. And Damon, I have to say this. In those moments, I wasn't thinking about me. I wasn't thinking about all the accolades and my pedigrees and all the badges on my chest and all the tabs on my shoulders. In those moments that I only thought I had seconds to live, the only people that I thought about were the people that I sacrificed most. And it was my family.
Wow.
And as I'm on the ground, I just hear this audible voice. Like you, I'm a man of faith as well. I believe I'm here because of that. I'm on the ground. My life is pouring out, and I hear, John, get up or your wife is going to die. Damon, here's what the people need to know, because so many things that are going on in leaders' homes. We said it. There's so many things going on. They're bringing work home. But what's going on in their homes? In my home, 6 months before I was shot, my mother-in-law and my father-in-law died 9 days apart. 2 years before that, my brother-in-law dies in a hunting accident. So if I didn't get up off the ground, what I heard was, John, get up or your wife is going to die. I believe that my wife would have succumbed to suicide because of all the loss she had. And so we talk about leadership. Damon, it was easier that day to lay on the ground and bleed out and die. The harder part was to obey and get up and fight for my family. I wasn't fighting for me. I was fighting for the survival of my heritage and my legacy.
Whoa, man. Boom. Whoa. That was heavy, man. All right. I'm not going to get emotional because you're right. It's easier just to stay down. I think a lot of the struggles that we have a lot of times, in our profession, there's a suicide epidemic. Over 20 veterans take their lives every single day. I understand why they do it. And it is definitely the most selfish thing that anybody can do, because there's no doubt when I look at my life, and I struggled with suicidal ideations, man, if I were ever to succumb to something like that, and it's easier to just pull the trigger. It really is. It really is, than to get up and go, all right, let me get after it another day. I understand that, but it is also the most selfish thing that any man or woman can do, because people do love me, and people do love your wife, and people do love that person. And the world is better because they're here on this earth.
Suicide doesn't eliminate pain. It transfers pain.
Wow. That's right. Exactly. And that's a fair statement. So you're sitting there, you get up. That's John Arroyo. Get up. So here we are. Now the audience knows everything about you. Now, not everything, because they're going to have to read your book, right?
Let me say this one last statement. I get up. I go looking for help. I encounter the shooter again, but let me pass that. There's some soldiers that are watching me through a window, and this is how they said they were alerted that I was injured. They said it looked like I had a red scarf flapping in the wind, but it was the blood squirting out of my neck. And one of the guys stops, looks through a window as I'm passing, and they're watching me from a building, and maybe there's about 30 soldiers. I'm just hypothetically speaking, but there's a group of them, and one of them says, "Man, that dude is bleeding." But he didn't run to me, Damon. So right now on this podcast, what we're saying, both of our lives, is that some of the people that are going to watch us, they're bleeding. And I believe soft missions and the missions that I'm doing today, we're running to them. And there were only about 4 or 5 soldiers that ran to me when maybe 40 were watching me.
So check this out. We're going to transition into the number one leadership trait, and rightfully so. Okay, rightfully so. But I want the audience to know right now, when you were shot and you skipped this part, I want you to tell them. I know that we're going a little longer on your story, but how can we not? Everybody listening, everybody watching, I mean, we're there every second. They're enamored. They're interested. They're listening every second. So you're on the ground. I want you to share that one part. The shooter comes up. You're laying down on the ground. You're bleeding out. What happens? And then we'll transition to the leadership trait. Go ahead.
So I obeyed. I got up. I go to grab my throat with my right hand, but my arm doesn't move because the bullet damaged my arm. So I grab my throat with my left hand. It looks like a Terminator movie.
Right.
And I start just walking where I assume I would find people to help me. So I get on this walking path, and I'm on Fort Hood, I'm in the medical brigade unit. So I'm walking right in front of the medical brigade on this walking path, and I see a soldier walking towards me. And Damon, come on, brother, red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
That's safety.
That's right.
I see someone in uniform coming towards me.
You're good to go.
Yeah, that's safety. And the soldier gets 10 feet in front of me, and he stops, and there's something that alerts me that there's something not right about him. And he's very hyper vigilant. He's looking around, and it ends up being the soldier that shot me, and he's only standing 10 feet in front of me. Damon, I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't run anywhere. My life was pouring out. And in that moment, he looked right through me, looked to the left and right. And it was almost like if I wasn't there, it was like a divine intervention. And he was blinded from seeing me. He turns, walks in the building that we're both standing in front of, shoots 3 more people, walks out the back and takes his life.
Okay. Ooh. It's interesting because I've heard this story before. And every time I hear it, it shakes me down to the core of my soul. Like, you're destined to be here. You have no option. This is what you're here for. We've got thousands of listeners. Go ahead.
The moment I was obedient to get up. If I wasn't obedient, I wouldn't be destined to be here.
You made a choice.
That's right.
Right? You made a choice.
Every leader has a choice.
That's right. You choose to get up. You choose to be here today. All our listeners, thousands of them, are listening right now. Maybe tens of thousands. You went to hell and back, literally. Shooter looks in your general direction, 10 feet away, and something happens. I would like to call it a divine intervention. In fact, I know it is. I know it is. I've been there. I know what it looks like. This is it. Everyone wants to know, if you had one leadership trait that all of our other listeners out there, leaders, nonprofit leaders, corporate leaders, individuals that are just trying to figure out how to get up from where they're at right now, the number one leadership trait, what would you share?
I would say transformational leadership. Transformational leadership, because here's transformational leadership. It's about pouring yourself into the people, not the end product. When you pour yourself into the people, the mission becomes organic. When you make the people the mission, that's when your mission, then they support what you want. So look at your people as the value, not the end product. So that's what I would say. Make your people the product. Pour yourself into them, your employees, your staff. Make them the mission. And when they're so full and they believe in you and they believe in themselves because you poured yourself into them, you won't have to ask them to do anything. It will become organic.
So when I was a commander, squadron commander, special operations, I had the honor, over 300 of the most elite warriors were in my unit. It's very common to say, mission first, people always. I've heard that since 2000, when I deployed in 2003 was the first time I ever heard that. It was the first sergeant of the unit speaking to me as a Marine. Mission first, people always. Always put the mission first, always take care of the people. When I became a commander, I had the right to display and to dictate what my commander's philosophy was. I changed it. I said people first, mission always. It was I always share I've had 2 commanders while I was a commander. The first one embraced it. The second one did not. It was a very friction point, big time. I believe that if you poured into your warriors, into your leaders, you knew everything about them, their parents, their family, their conflicts in their life. You knew their good, their bad, and the ugly. You took care of them. You invested in them. It was a selfless service. It wasn't always about the mission. It was about the people. Then if you took care of the people, they'll definitely take care of you, and they will always take care of the mission. Always. Transformational leadership. I love that. So as a leader, John Arroyo is saying, Pour into your people. That's how you transform them. Invest in them. Put them first, and they're always going to take care of the mission.
That's it.
That's why you and I get along so well, because I don't believe that you have to put the mission first. They're there for a reason, because of the mission. We all know that the mission has to be taken care of, but the mission's never going to be done well unless you put the people first. That's my opinion. There'll be other commanders and they're going to balk back at that. That's fine. That's your form of leadership. Your form of leadership is the way it works for you. For me, this is what works, because I really believe in investing in people.
Well, there's transactional leadership.
That's right.
There's transformational leadership. Right. So there's people that are transactional leaders for me. And I believe every leader that I've come across in the military, that I've had some pretty good ones.
Yeah.
The Army is for the, well, I would say the military in general, but the military is transformational. That the military is a leadership track. No one stays a private. As soon as you walk in the door, you're destined to be the next sergeant major or the next general, right? And how do you do that? Because you have to pour yourself into the people.
That's right. That's right. This is so good. Now that we know what John Arroyo's driving leadership trait is, let's find out what John Arroyo's ideological charge. What ideologically, what is it that keeps you up at night? What exactly fuels you? What is it that when it gets hard, and when I mean hard, I mean when it gets tough, I'm talking about when your life is on the line, right? What's driving you? What's your driving ideology? Because when things go bad, you have to get back up. What exactly drives you, my friend?
Well, the bottom line, we kind of talked about it. We alluded to it. It's my faith. I was given a second chance. And when I stand before my creator, my maker, and he says, some people never got a chance. Some people got one chance. You got two. What did you do with what I gave you? So I believe that I'm called to free the oppressed. That's the Green Beret motto. What keeps me awake is freeing the oppressed. Those kids that are in public schools that don't have a dad, the John Arroyos, the Damon Friedmans, the Francises that are having a fight in LA.
That's right. The Francis is fighting in LA, that's man. Right. For all you Francis out there, man, good luck, bro. Out in LA and New York, man, good luck, bro.
That's it. So my heart is the John Arroyos that are in public schools, the soldiers that join the military that are in formation, and really they join the military because they're dragging their past. They're trying to look for a better way at life. And that's it. So my deal is getting up and taking my second chance and bringing it to a public school, taking it into the military and sharing hope and telling them, get up.
Man, I tell you what, my driving ideology is my faith too. I get all sorts of answers and there's never really one that's wrong. But down to the core of everything that I do, I believe in my higher calling. There is a quote, and it is a quote that you could see in just about every special operations unit out there, at least every special operations unit that I've ever been a part of. And it comes from an incredible philosopher. His name is Isaiah, and he wrote this book. He was an advisor, a spiritual advisor, a prophet to kings. And he wrote in the 6th chapter of his book, the God of the universe is calling each and every person. I mean, I believe it down to the core of my soul. But because of all the distractions, all the loud noises, people are constantly derailed. They can't even hear what the Creator's saying. And Isaiah is writing this down. And because he's so connected, meditating day and night, so connected to his higher calling and his purpose, he says, whom shall we send? This is the Creator of the universe. Who will go for us? And in the still quiet, as all these loud noises are happening in the whole world, he can hear clearly, and he raises up his hand. He says, here I am, send me. It's actually a verse. And it's actually the quote that drives our nonprofit, SOF Missions. No doubt about it. Here I am, send me. So I believe in exactly what you're saying. It's a higher calling. You know that you didn't just get one but 2 chances. And those are the only 2 chances that you really know of.
Well, and I'll say this, the Green Beret motto, as De Oppresso Libera, means free the oppressed.
That's right.
Damon, you're doing the same thing right now. You're doing the same mission that you were called to do in the military. Here I am, send me. The only difference is your uniform.
That's right.
Has changed.
That's right.
But in your heart, the assignment has never shifted.
That's right. So I love what you're saying. And for all of you military brothers and sisters out there, or even first responders, the mission of being in the military, the mission of being a law enforcement officer, a firefighter, a dispatcher, that doesn't define who you are. You have and will always be freedom fighters. Don't ever forget that. Your mission just changes. I literally, I've shared this, that I had my multicam uniform, and on the day of retirement, I remember I took that thing off, and I had like a ceremony. I don't know if any of you watched John Wick out there, but I had a little John Wick outfit, all black. I took my multicam uniform off. I said, and I hung it up, says that uniform was fighting terrorism. And then I put on the new one. This new uniform's fighting suicide. My mission changed, but my purpose hasn't. I'm a freedom fighter, and we both have a higher calling, and we're living it out, which is a perfect segue. Man, you've been a vice president of one of the most, incredible organizations out there that took care of families. And that's, I think, another reason why you're passionate about marriage. You're passionate about being a good father, passionate about being a leader in the home, raising up young men and women to be responsible, productive members of society, but more importantly, fulfilling their ultimate calling. So the third part of this podcast, talking about leadership, is organizational construct. Here you are. You've been a leader of some great orgs, great companies, great units. Tell the audience, what is the one organization which is internal to the organization, to your employees, to your staff, to your peers, these things? What's the one trait that you want to share with our audience?
Well, again, just taking care of your people. That's the trait. And so it transcends from the leader pouring into the people to making sure that the people are resourced and have everything they need, and that you're present and that you're there. And so I would say, as a vice president, one of the things that I allowed is I was there with my people when they were doing their jobs. I would get with them and let them know I was available. That's one of the things I would say for my subordinates when I was the vice president of Reaver Foundation, and we worked with public schools, military, other nonprofits. We used to host retreats. And so I had to work with my logistician, the one that was planning and making all the moves. And then I had to work with our curriculum development team. I had to work with our schedulers. And so what I would do is just make sure that they knew that I was available, and that I empowered them to be in their position. I didn't micromanage, but in the military, I forgot the term right now, but essentially I would empower them. I would give them my guidance, and then I would let them go do it.
Yeah.
And then let them come back to me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go with them and do it for them, because that's what a lot of leaders do, is they end up going with them and then doing it for them. And they're just like, well, why do you need me? So what I would do is I would empower them, give them my vision. And then the other thing I would do is have them proceduralize it, right? Because that's the other thing leaders are not good at proceduralizing things. And so when there's transition, then there's chaos, because there's nothing in place for procedure. So what I would do is I would say, hey, look, you're the scheduler. It takes these steps. Would you please put that on paper? So I would empower them. They would go execute, but I would also ask them to dictate their job on a sheet, and then we would proceduralize that.
Yeah. So you're not a micromanager. That's what John Arroyo is saying.
Yeah.
And the word that he used is called empowerment, which is a direct correlation of his number one leadership trait, which is transformational leadership, which is investing into people, right? It's a very servant leadership style, right? And so the reality is I'm the same way. If you go to our organization and you talk to any of one of my employees, I'm not a micromanager. If you can't self-lead, this organization is not for you, right? I'm going to give you my commander's guidance. I'm going to give you, my intent, and I'm going to give you the resources. I'm going to empower you, and I'm not micromanaging you. because everything is about, accomplishing the mission the way that you feel most comfortable. And I think good leaders do that. Bad leaders tell their employees how to do it and dictate them to do it that way.
Right.
And it's bad because I have a skill set that many people don't. So if I'm requiring my staff to accomplish the mission my way, they may in fact not be able to accomplish the mission. Everybody has their own gifts. Everybody has their own skill sets. Everybody has their own way of doing business. And you know what? I'm telling you what, sometimes it takes a lot longer when you let them have all the freedom to accomplish the mission. But it's their way. And I'm going to tell you, ultimately, they become better leaders themselves because they're going through that process.
When they own it.
They own it. I like it.
They take that ownership of it, and that's their part.
Yep.
It's not that like it's compartmentalized, because we always want to have overlap where we do cross-training, right? So that everybody has the ability to maybe step in and help each other out. But you're still the director of that specific thing. And so when they take ownership, again, you go back to transformational leadership. When they take ownership, they take pride in what they do.
Yes, I love that.
When you pour into them, they take pride in what they do. Again, then the mission's organic. And so they come and they want to present to you because they're so full. They're so proud to give you something that is excellence.
Yeah, that's great. So, man, I love it. We're going to call that empowerment. And I'm going to tell you right now, I love that. Again, you and I are so similar, maybe because we're both special operations leaders, right? Now transition into a new mission in the world. So here we are in the world. We're trying to strategically connect with people. These are people. This is outside. It's the outward manifestation of the internal components of empowering your people, right? We talked about leadership. We talked about that trait. We talked about ideology. We talked about organizational construct. Now strategic. How do we connect? Tell our audience, what is one of your weapons of mass destruction? How do you connect with people? How is it that you're able to share your message? What exactly is it that really, really, really that you use as a weapon to connect with people? Go ahead.
Public speaking. Public speaking is the way I do it, just like you.
Yep.
But also, I'm starting to transition into what you're doing right now and to hit the digital side of things, because I believe that this is exponential reach. When it comes to trying to reach the younger generation, I may be able to get in front of them and maybe just a few of them at a time, maybe a couple hundred, maybe even 1,000 if I go into a public school. But if I meet them where they live,
right,
which is on TikTok, if I meet them on Snapchat, and I just bring 30-second, 1 minute encouraging messages for them on leadership, on getting up, empowering them to know their identity, who they are, that's where I see myself moving to. But the way I get out and the way I deliver the message is right now I'm ground pounding and I'm getting in front of people and I'm building that track record like you've done.
Yeah.
And then people will trust me eventually to watch me digitally.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you right now, speaking is definitely a weapon. Storytelling is a weapon. Yep. It's the way that you can, and the way that you're talking is you contextualize the message based off of the audience, because how you share your story to, middle school or high school kids is a little bit different than when you do it with college kids. Yes, and it's definitely much different when you're dealing with grown men and women in a corporate setting or in a faith-based setting, in a nonprofit setting, in an open setting, here on this podcast. So absolutely. I mean, definitely I use, definitely speaking, to communicate my heart, my passion. And, you mentioned the digital age, and the reality is that concepts like isolation, concepts like feeling insignificant, concepts like, fear, that's universal. It doesn't matter what age we're in, digital or not. It could be back in the 1900s, or it could be in, today when, social media is at all-time high.
Well, here's the thing, Damon. Social media is not social. Because people grab their phones and they go and they'll spend hours, and you see it at every restaurant where they're not being social. They're on social media.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they pick up this device and they avoid the actual social. Right. Having that conversation between a husband and a wife, or enjoying your children at dinner. Yeah. Social media is not social.
What's funny is I'm going to just take a second. There's so many people that love just to, text, and it's so difficult for them just to pick up the phone and make a phone call. And I've dealt this even with some of my employees or just friends. I'm like, hey man, you've been going back and forth, texting and emailing. How about, I bet you can solve all this if you just get on the phone for like 2 minutes. He's like, well, I'll just keep texting. I'm like, I'll pick up the phone. And 2 minutes later, we solved the problem. Well, after, the multiple days of them going back and forth, texting and emailing, right? Oh, I even messaged them on Facebook or on Instagram or on LinkedIn. Just pick up the phone, man. It's okay. It's a safe space.
And in leadership, that's what we want to do. And the thing is, the other thing about messaging like that is it's impersonal. So you really don't get my heart through a text message, and you don't understand that I'm really caring about your situation. Right. And I'm telling you through this message that, man, I love you, but you can't receive that through a text message until I pick up the phone and talk with you.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just personalized. Yesterday, I have an executive assistant, and that sounds like, oh, that sounds flashy. No, it's because I have multiple initiatives, and due to my injuries, sometimes I really struggle in putting all my thoughts together. I've sustained multiple traumatic brain injuries, and I really struggle to be able to travel at the speed I once had, right? That I was once able, and just things like travel. It's hard for me to deal with flying from one place, getting the car, figuring out where this place is, and then I'm dealing with like 3 other things at once. So I'm talking to my, and I'm just, she texted me yesterday, and she's reminding me of the podcast today, and also a meeting that's literally on my calendar, and I'm so consumed with life, I can't even remember. She pings me and says, "Hey, your conference, call is on now." I mean, and it was a very important meeting. Just so you know, it was a very, very important meeting. And I was like, ugh. And I was going to text her. And I actually texted, man, I just want you to know that I love you, man. Right? And she's an older woman, she's retired. And instead I picked up the phone. I said, I just want you to know, I really appreciate the way you take care of me. I love you. And in our community, we say that. We say that to our brothers. I say that to my staff members, but I only say it when I mean it. I love you. And she was a bit taken back. It's like, I just want you to know, I can't do this job without you. So I love it just by picking up that phone and just communicating. I love the way that you're connecting. So here we are, John Arroyo. Here we've been speaking. What an extraordinary story, a survivor at Fort Hood, second mass shooting out there. 19
of us shot,
19
3 killed,
yeah,
and then 16 of us injured.
Yeah, and so here he is, former, gang member, became a Green Beret, an officer, and one day he gets shot through his neck. He's bleeding out. He's on the ground, and he makes a command decision. I'm gonna get up. Get up. Here he is, John Arroyo, saying, man, I'm not only a leader of leaders, but I'm a survivor, and nothing's going to stop me until it's my time to be extracted out of this universe, and only one can determine that. And that we don't know as the time is yet. We just know that you're here right now, and you're in the fight, and you're making an atomic impact. He said that leadership, the number 1 trait is transformational leadership. That's what it is. Number 2, his driving ideology is a higher calling, his faith, very much like mine. He didn't just get one chance. He thinks he got 2 chances that he knows of. I guarantee you it's been a whole lot more than that.
I believe it.
Guaranteed. Like a cat with how many lives? All you get is 9, I guess. I guarantee you he's done with the 9. He just doesn't even know it. Number 3, he says empowerment. You want to lead an organization where they're going to be an unstoppable force for good? Activate your transformational leadership and empower them. And then lastly, communicate through his superpower, and that's being a public speaker. The way he connects, the way he communicates, it's personalized. He's real. John Arroyo, man, we really appreciate you being on this podcast. We're going to talk real quick about where our listeners can find you, but I'm going to give you the last minute to say whatever's on your heart, because this is an incredible interview. If there's one thing that you want to leave to our audience, the one thing, I'm going to give you a minute. I'll give you 2. And then we're going to go ahead and let everybody know where to find Mr. John Arroyo, because he wrote an amazing book. Incredible book. If you haven't read it, you're really missing out. What's the one thing you want to leave to our audience? Go ahead, brother.
Damon, leadership, we hear this term resilience, military, first responders. But if you go and look at the definition of resilience, it doesn't tell you how to be resilient. It just says that if you have resilience, that you may not fall into these traps. If you lack resilience, then maybe you fall into these traps, but it doesn't tell you that there's actually a source of resilience. And I'll say this, Damon, when I got up off the ground, I had to make a decision after I left the hospital on what was going to be my source of resilience. So people go to self-help books, they go to counseling, it's maybe their faith. So I would say that I want to leave with the audience is, what is your source for resilience? What is going to get you up?
Wow.
What is going to keep you moving? For me, and I believe for you, I believe you could say the same thing. The foundation was my faith. On top of that, I used counseling and I let other people help me. So here's what I want to leave them with. When you find yourself at a fork in the road, what will be your source for resilience? Because not all roads lead to the same outcome. How is it that you went through everything, Damon, that you went through? I went through everything I went through, not just in the war. We had war before we even joined the military.
That's right.
Our invisible wounds from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went to war.
Right.
Then we came home.
Right.
And now we're dealing with it.
Right.
But we've gotten back up. So we know what our source of resilience. Now I challenge the listeners on to find out what their source is.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, resiliency, I mean, it's psychological, it's social, it's physical, it's spiritual. We always talk about physical fitness. If you want to be able to endure the challenges in life, physical fitness. But what about psychological fitness? What about social fitness? What about cognitive fitness? What about spiritual fitness? Right here, John Arroyo is mentioning that it's a multidisciplinary approach.
Yep.
Right. But the real question is where does your source come from?
That's right.
1,000,000,000%. I believe 8 billion people in the whole world, John and I believe without a shadow of a doubt that God has a higher calling in our lives. We've recognized it and we're embracing it. And in order for us to accomplish the mission, we must be resilient. We must be fit, psychologically fit, socially fit, cognitively fit, physically fit, and spiritually fit. Mr. John Arroyo, man, what an incredible interview that we've had. Tell our listeners, how are they going to be able to get a hold of you? Tell them real quick about your book. Give them your website. I already know it. This is amazing. And if you ever want this guy to come and speak in your company, in your church, in your nonprofit, in your community groups, in your school, this is the guy. His story is mind-blowing. That's why we bring him back all the time to close out our graduations, our clinics, to our warriors who've traveled all over the state of Florida and all over the country so they could be left with a message of hope. Go ahead.
Damon, first of all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for loving me the way you do. And the listeners, they can follow me. It's easy. They could just go to getupwithjohn.com. On there, they'll see the 3 books that I've written.
Nice.
The first one, telling our story. We wrote a devotional that goes with it. It's called Open Their Eyes. And just recently, I wrote a book not about the wounds from war, but the invisible wounds from childhood,
right,
that many people are carrying. So getupwithjohn.com, and I'd love to meet them and shake their hand at some point in the future.
Absolutely. And the name of your book is?
I Never Heard My Dad Say.
I Never Heard My Dad Say. I have not read that book yet. Counsel me, but I'm getting ready to do it this weekend. I'm going to crack it open, right in front of a fire and a nice beverage, right in this, and I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy this book. John Arroyo, thank you so much for being on our podcast today. You're definitely an unstoppable force for good. It's getupwithjohn.com. You must go there, read the book, get him out there to speak wherever you're at. I'm telling you right now, he's going to make a nuclear impact. Mr. John Arroyo, may God bless you, all of your endeavors, and thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you, Dr. Friedman.
All right. With all that being said, thank you for watching the Damon Friedman Show. It's not just a podcast. It's a movement, an unstoppable force for good. May the commander of the universe be with you, and Godspeed.